welcome to our last installment this evening, and that's going to be dry flies. And we're going to do some pretty basic patterns and stuff that you can kind of spice up, make your own, change the way that they look, and I'll explain that a little bit to you as well. Let's see here. Looks like it's thinking about going. It says it's going. Not really sure, but I'm sure it'll catch up here in a second. It's trying to get to see who has won, but no luck. No luck. But tonight we're going to be tying a little elk hair caddis. Super classic dry fly pattern, pretty much a staple in anybody's box. A little parachute. Again, great, super versatile pattern that you should have all the time. A Adams and a Comparadun, something that's easily, mutatable into any number of variable patterns here. Trying to see here if anybody's piping up from the corporate text message to see if we can get the winner. Aaron, hello. Scott, hello. Nate, hello. B. Philly, good evening. So, a lot of people struggle with dry flies. I'm probably one of them. I tie really good giant things with foam, but that's about it. So, I think we're going to start with the Comparadun. Oh, all right. We have a winner. Winner, chicken dinner. I have to respond so I'm not rude, of course, right? Let's see. So last week's winner was David Brummett. David Brummett. And I'll have to remember that for everybody else who asks. Tim, hello. John, good evening. Jeremy, welcome. Rick, hello. So we're going to dive in. I'm going to start with the Comparadun, probably go to elk hair caddis, do a little hair work. We'll tie the Adams. Adams has got a lot of pages. Little parachute. I tied my parachute the wrong color. Oh, never will work. It only works if there's PNBs then. And the black Gnat dry fly. So, alright, so we're going to start off, we'll go up to the vise and go from there. We're just going to go ahead and enhance. Whoa, no, there we go. The little hand thing says steady. That is not what we were doing. We were not being steady. So I'm still doing this refresh thing on my end. Some sort of glitch in the matrix is still happening, but I'll try to keep up as best I can, guys. So, size 14 dry fly hook. Whoa, dry flies tonight. Tanner, hello. David, hello. Aaron, you struggle. Jordan says dry flies. Jeremy says he's never tied dry flies, but he's wanting to learn. I am such a nymph nerd that I may not be the hottest dry fly tire out there, just so you know, Jeremy. I'm not going to hype myself up here at all. So, let's see here. We'll refresh, which is what I always forget to do. And I'm going to take some 8/0 Black Vivas is what we're going to start with, and we'll do connecting turns down the hook shank. And again, I keep my tags back there just because I think it's a cheat to make sure you do smooth stuff. Nice. Thanks, Jeremy. Good evening, Mr. Ebers. So first and foremost, we're going to be using some tailing materials, and for this pattern it's calling for a sparkle emerger yarn in a gray. Sometimes you'll also hear grays referred to as a dun color, and a dun is a immature mayfly, also known as a sub-imago. So mayflies, they live on the bottom, hang out for months, and all of a sudden they have the urge to hatch, and they kind of inflate with gas, float to the surface, and then they become a dun. Dries equal life force. I like it. I like it. So after they get done with their dun phase, they're considered to be, sexually immature. So they do another molting, which they seem to do on my front porch the best, and then they become like a spinner or an imago. So there's your nerd-tabulous entomology lesson for the evening. You can see this is going to be pretty long. I don't worry about it until we are at the back end of the fly getting ready. Greg says hello Mr. Greg Mills. Black thread matters. Yeah, I gotta tie it with the right colors. If it was up to me, I'd just shenanigans around with clear thread all the time. So there's gonna be tons of different deer hair as well. So this is a Comparadun hair. It is picked for this type of fly tying. There is also little coastal deer hair. I don't know if you can see the difference. I'll give you guys a brief description on what I look for. When you go to a store and you look at your deer hair, you want to dig in here, and there's like these little fluffs. And this patch, because I cherry picked it, doesn't have a ton of fluff, and there's a nice line up here of as far as a color change. You'll see it even more on this Comparadun hair. So again, minimal fluff, good line change, and without that underfur, you're probably thinking that this animal was harvested, during the summertime. It wasn't cold, so it didn't need a bunch of extra fluff under there. Fart bugs. There is a bug called a fart bug. It's tied by my friend. It's a pretty good pattern. So we're going to be using a hair stacker tonight, and I'll make sure that we kind of keep that in the eye. So what I like to do is I'll get just a healthy little portion, and I just go up and down with my finger, smooth this all out, and make sure. Thanks, John. Andrew, hello. Awesome, Scott. Yeah, I don't fish with a ton of dries either. My backyard fishery isn't the best dry fly fishery. So what I did is I put all of this hair in tip first. And I like to keep my finger over the top, and you can do this on a solid surface. I don't shake it, I just tap it. And what you get left with is all of your hair comes out and it's nicely stacked. That is important. You want this to fan properly and look cool. So now what I do is I take it and I measure for my wing height that I want, and I'm going to take 2 wraps and just pull straight down. We're not trying to spin this hair, which is another technique. And I'm going to go ahead and take just a few wraps back. I don't need to go too deep into the tail end of the fly. This will actually help you also build a good, transitional abdomen to thorax. Go ahead and move it just a hair forward. And you can see we have no hair on the bottom here, but all of the hair is stacked nicely up top. So we're going to go ahead and work our way back to the back of the fly. And you can push this kind of all forward at this point. Just kind of keep it out of the way. Smooth it out best you can. And now we're going to select some dubbing. So this is a microfine dry fly dub in a Caddis gray. This is going to come in a ton of different colors. If you tie small dry flies, one pack of this is probably a pretty hearty portion of your lifetime of tying. A little, I mean, tonight we're using this smidge here for the most part. I don't think I'll need more than this smidge of dubbing. Fly Fiend, hello? Hello, Mike. Welcome to the live stream. I'm glad you're checking us out. So I'm going to form a really fine dubbing noodle, and we're going to go ahead and we'll just dub this body. And you can do real nice tight wraps. This one hair right there is just bugging the potatoes out of me. And then I like to bring it in front and just have a little bit of a head on the front of this fly. So you can see if you get too much, you can go ahead and work through it. And we'll go ahead and wrap all the way forward. Squeaky bobbin gets the cheese or squeaky wheel, grease, something like that. And we'll go ahead and whip finish. Now, if you only get to learn to tie a few dries, this is a great one. You can change the color of the hair. You can change everything about this pattern. And I'm going to go ahead and trim this off about 3/8 of an inch back. I'm going to finish this up. There's a couple little gangly monkeys down there, free roaming. But I will go ahead and finish this up with some water-based head cement. Just a touch. Let it absorb in there. So you can see what this ends up doing is, get out of there, little fuzz. It kind of sits on the water right about where my finger is, and you know, you get this cool profile. You can change the color and do a ton of stuff. Pablo asks, what's the dubbing again? This is a microfine dry fly dub, and this is just a Caddis gray, so it's a custom color. We'll be using a lot of it this evening. This is like a tan, and also in a light Cahill color. So it's a really great entry-level fly, super easy to accomplish. You can tie it in, you know, green, black, browns, grays. Really cover any bug species with this. So it's did I announce last week's winner? His name is David Brummett, was our last week's winner. So yeah, that's the basis of a little Comparadun. And you can see once we get that hair stacked, all of the tips sit out at the same level. So that's why a hair stacker is important there. Alrighty. Let's see what's next up in the book here. Oops. Oy. So we're going to do an elk hair caddis, and I'll give you, this is the book's description of one. Just a real basic little elk hair caddis here. Great general caddis pattern. Can be evolved into numerous, see, they're switching thread on me, those tricky buggers. So it can be evolved into numerous different colorways. most popular are going to be some like a cinnamon, a tan. You know, you can do a black, greens, stuff like that. Just depending on the species that's hatching. So again, we're going to be using a size 14 dry fly hook. And this is just a generic hook. But we're going to put a spin on this pattern. And I'm going to refresh here while I have a hot minute, hot second, whatever it is. Whatever the cool kids say these days. Put the lotion on the bobbin. Hey Brian, welcome. I'm glad you're tuning in from Canada. Let's see. Congratulations, David. Thanks, Jeremy. Comparaduns are money. They are. It's really one of the only things I fish, either that or cripples, anymore, which is like a crippled emerging mayfly. Scott asks if the water-based head cement dissolves in water. It does not dissolve in water. It's a great question. It's simply just has a water base to it, so it's not solvent based. So it's just going to be better for the environment. Once the evaporation happens, it is set in stone. This is a 8/0 Vivus thread in brown tonight for this one in particular. Great question though, Scott. I would happen to be the guy that would know all about that, luckily. So, like I showed you, this is a very standard caddis pattern. There's no cool stuff going on, but we'll show you. Next week, you'll have a nymph surprise. It'll be awesome. Hey, Jeff, how's it going? So what I'm going to do to spice this up, when caddis are laying their eggs, typically from the caddis that I see out here, they have a green egg. So I'm going to create a small dubbing ball. This is again from the kit, so I consider it to be in fair game. And I have a hard time following exact recipes. But if you want to just tie a standard elk hair caddis, you can omit this little portion here. So all I'm going to do is just go a little deeper and create this sparkly egg sac. And it's about small. It's really just a tiny little bump. It may look big on the screen, but realistically it's not. It also aids, I mean, it's just going to give them something to look at. So I'm going to tie in some wire. This is just a gold fine wire. It's gold colored fine wire. You know, uni, extra small, something like that's going to work great here. Am I fishing at all? I went out for Oompa Loompas the other day. I didn't catch any. All of my rivers look like chocolate milk at this moment that are readily available for me. Okay, so we're going to take this wire and we'll just leave it out the back here. Yeah, I'm watching some coastal stuff because I will play hooky from work for a long time to go out to the coast, actually. So our dubbing for this guy is going to be microfine dry fly dub in tan. Take care, Tanner. Good luck, man. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to kind of primp this dubbing a little bit. I'm going to make this have a nice, slender body. And I'll increase the diameter of my dubbing as I move down the thread. The reason I do that is so I can build a taper into this body. And I just wrap. I don't really worry about if I have to go over something again. It doesn't bug me. It's not going to trip me up. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just kind of how it is. So once we get to a point where we like it, if we have extra, you can kind of just peel that back off. And I'll move my thread forward. So a new material for this evening we're going to be using, this is a dry fly saddle hackle. It's and it's a saddle, not a neck. So the difference is I'll show you. My computer's trying to restart. That's brilliant. Yeah, bugger off, computer. So you can see from the neck, this is where the bird's head would be, right here, and you can see the feathers are much smaller. Down in here, this is where saddles come from, and on different breeds of chickens, due to the masterful genetics of Mr. Cahill, you can get a very long, straight feather that, you know, this will tie probably 10 to 12 flies. So I'm going to tie it in, and there's a cupped edge, and we're going to tie that away from me. So I'll show you on this one. It might be a little easier to see. So you can see there's a little bit of a dull side, or I call it the cup side, versus a brighter side. I like to have everything going forward that's shiny. And all I'm going to simply do is wrap this backwards. And again, take your time, make sure it looks nice and smooth. Now when you come to your wire, you want to pull your wire over, securing the hackle in. Wiggle, wiggle back, forth, and you're technically just locking in all of those fibers and that hackle that you just tied. So if you fish a lot of stimmies or anything like that, realistically, other than the tail, the steps have already been the same for a stimulator. And I'll make sure I have that wire well controlled with quite a few wraps, and then I'll go to helicopter that back off. This is not my helicopter special. For the back, you're going to come in here and just trim it off nice and neat. Now you can see we still have enough to tie quite a few more flies. When they come in these kits, you're just going to get all of these feathers kind of like lined up. They're like a 100 pack or a dry fly pack. Right on, Jeff. Yeah, I mean you can just manipulate away. So for our elk hair caddis, obviously, as the name suggests, we're going to be bringing in some elk hair. And this happens to be a bleached elk hair. You could use a standard gray colored. And let's see. Anyone going to Somerset? I am not. I think Cheech is there right now. Rick asks, what's my favorite steelhead rig? I enjoy swinging for steelhead. So I tie a lot of swing flies. So that's pretty much my my main game when it comes to steelhead. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking and getting all of that hair out of there. And if you compress this down, it's probably, you know, a quarter pencil or something like that, let's say. I'm going to drop it again, tips first into the hair stacker. And while it's in there, I'll refresh. Couple taps, and we're going to be good to go here. So what I like to do here is I'm going to say that's where I want my wing to be. That's where I want that to set. And I just go ahead and give it a trim. So I'll take my first turn and my second turn, and kind of like we did with the Comparadun, I'll pull down and we'll set our wing. Now I'll go through these guys winding forward and keep pulling down. See, I'm winding it into that hair, and that's going to further stabilize this wing. And then I'll come right underneath it. You can see I'm barely lifting that up. And we'll whip finish. And looks like I pinched part of my hackle in there, but you know, for the record, it's going to fish just fine. So we'll go in here, we'll do a little trim. I like to have not a lot of fluffiness up front on these guys. I like them to be pretty sparse, but I like my wings to, you know, I'll spread my wing out so you get this cool kind of caddisy profile. And you know, you can just add in some head cement here and go right up into the top, and you can just let it soak down in, and then that's going to get all glued together. You know, if you want, you can attack some of these guys, but it's really not going to do you too much. It's not too much trapped actually in there. Joe, hello. Eber says hi to Joe. There you go. So, yeah, that's just a little egg-laying elk hair caddis. Just a cool variation off the original. Remember, if you didn't want to do the egg-laying, you can leave the little green blob egg sac out of there. But, again, great pattern. Wow, everything, this is easy. Everything's got a size 14 dry fly hook, except for one of the patterns. So this is easy living for me, man. I'm loving it. So again, we'll be using our size 14 dry fly hook there. Oops, hair stackers down. And we're going to go back to our black A-dot thread. Hey Joe, what's up, man? I don't really see a major difference. I can use UV cure on there as well. I typically just use the water-based head cement. It's just what I go for. So we'll do connecting turns down the shank, and we're going to use some of these dry fly tailing feathers. Now, if you're not tying from this kit and you didn't get this snazzy little bag of feathers, you can use stuff like Coq de Leon, or you know, some saddle, or some of your hackle. If you have some bigger hackles, you can absolutely use that. But I'm going to peel off about a 1/4 inch so you can see the section that I've taken off there. And I just line them up, make sure all the butt ends, where it connects to the stem, are nice and equal. And I put it about, a little over, oops, losing a couple there, that's alright, we don't need them. I don't need this thing to get bulky. Put it about 3/16 to a 1/4 out the backside of this little size 14 here. So next up, we're going to take some hen tips. And this is a technical little bugger. You can omit this step and still fish this fly. This actually, I feel, greatly increases the technicalities of this pattern. So what you want is you just want them to be matched. So you can see I have two of the same here, and I'm just going to put them on top of each other and say that's what I want my, you know, hackles or my wings to look like. And so they're really small. They're very dainty. Again, this is an attractor pattern, so it's not really meant to emulate anything exactly, but it kind of just emulates everything, which is cool. So I'm going to set those in right up front here, pointing out the front of the fly, and I'll secure them in and up. And I do that by just putting a few wraps in front of the feathers here. Now if you want to separate them, we'll do a figure 8 in between there, and we're going to wrap back to our tailing fibers, because that's where we kind of got to start the fly. Uh-oh. Refreshing. I saw there was some new comments. Let's sneak a few in there. Hey, Matt. Or, hey, Carl. I'm just reading what you're saying to me. Sorry. Brian asked a great question. Am I using any floatants on my dries? Yeah, I use Aquel, Loxa. I use a lot of stuff. One thing that I do a lot of that I think is underrated is I pre-treat them with like a Hydrostop type product, which is just a, yeah, Loxa is the best. You're right. Does it plug the eyelet? No, it does not plug the eyelet. I would absolutely fish a size 14, especially in an Adams, or any of these patterns. I mean, a size 14 caddis isn't really that small of a caddis. You know, same kind of goes for a Comparadun. But yeah, you could tie the Comparadun down to like a 18 or a 20. But for the sake of video, 14's a pretty solid size for you guys to have to look at. After all, live streaming on a budget is still in its infancy. So I'm going to be using our microfine dry fly dub again in Betis Gray. So we'll go ahead and we'll just start our wraps. And you can make this guy, you know, nice and thin. As far as the body, I always tie my dries really thin. I don't know why. I'm just kind of programmed to do that. And you know what? I'll just give it one more turn in there. Oops. I got it loose. Okay. So now we just have this cool little body, these big wings that'll they'll end up going upwards. Next up, we're going to take a grizzly saddle hackle and tie it in. Okay, and we'll take our brown saddle hackle and tie that in as well. And we'll just work our way back up to the front. Now I'll just throw a half hitch in here, just so I don't blow it. It happens. What I'm going to do is, a lot of people wrap them separately. I am a cheater. Make sure I got them both lined up with the dull side. So I just kind of stack them on top of each other. Maybe I'm a cheater. Probably am. And I'm just going to go ahead and wrap these guys. You can see it'll push those wings down. I'll just pull them back and go right back in front of them. And I just keep pressing everything backwards the best I can as I work my way forward. Now when I get here and I'm like, that's awesome, it's a heavy hackled Adams, it's what an Adams should look like. You know, you can make them sparser. I'll go ahead and lock that in there with a few turns. And I'll trim it off. And then what I like to do is I'll just try to pull everything back that I can. Take a couple turns. Squeak my bobbin. Sorry for the headphone dudes. And I mean, there's guys that are like the kings of these flies. It's pretty crazy. I tie a passable version. Hey Edward, welcome, hello. So you can kind of come in, primp that. You know, you're going to get this cool profile. It's going to look pretty snazzy. And we'll just do a few dabs in there of water-based head cement. It's nice and thin. Hey Mark, how's it going? So yeah, that's just a little snarly guy back here. I don't like him. He's bugging me. There we go. Just a real basic Adams catch fish. You know, if you wanted to make life easier on yourself, you can ditch the wings and it'll still work. Still going to get the job done. Man, we're buzzing through stuff here. Am I going too fast for you guys? It's mildly therapeutic for me. Alright. The bad thing is you drop parts of your saddle on the ground and your puppy eats them. That's always the trouble. Trouble puppy. Brian, Loxa is a liquid and it's CDC safe as well. I've heard of people doing lots of weird things, Bobby. I stay away personally from anything with chlorinated fluorocarbons or CFCs, just because, I don't know. I've never done the Scotchgard thing. I've seen guys who have like spent like tons of money on like weird hydrophobic materials, and then just to find out that their fly doesn't float any different. I don't think there's any perfect scenario, to be honest. All right. Oh. I'm going to change threads up. We're going to go to a yellow Vivus. It's a light Cahill style color. So funny story is how I came to be with Loon is that I was one of those dudes that was trying everything. So I can tell you firsthand, you can spend a lot of time and effort to try to come up with some sort of secret trick or hack, but honestly I just spent a lot of money. So didn't hurt. Okay, good, Jeff. And yes, it will work at Manzanita at 4 p.m. this May. Absolutely. Yeah, you know, Rick, I kind of like the look of the Adams with the taller wingtips. I think it just adds a little bit of a profile to it. So this is what we're working on now, and just a little standard light Cahill parachute. And we're going to do a cool little mix-up on this guy. Then I'll show you that as well. So once we get to the back here, we're going to take these kind of gingery Nick Davis looking numbers here. And again, I'm just going to peel off about 1/4 of an inch of this feather, and I just align all of the butts of the feather here. Cool thing is you can be like, yeah, that's right where I wanted that. Perfect. And then I just secure them in out of good measure all the way forward. So we just leave just a little bit here, and we're going to be working off of that. So standard, a lot of people will use a white parapost wing. Jordan asks, how do you become an ambassador of Loon? Special powers. It's all secret stuff. No, it's just something we just reach out to people who motivate us. This is typically how we do it. So what I'm going to use is some orange parapost. Now, say you have a glare or whatever it might be, and you don't see white worth beans on the river. So you can change your parapost color, and now you have a high-vis pattern. You can also use permanent markers to Sharpie down, rednecks, Sharpie your white to be any color that you want if you're having any issues. So I'm just going to create my post here, and it takes a little bit of time, practice, frustration. It's a very limp material. So just as an example, this is probably not the... Here we go. Now we're talking. So say if you had a bunch of paraposts that you've tied up, and you didn't tie them with let's see. Yeah, I do. I wind over the butts of that to help taper the fly just a little bit. Just also, it doesn't give you any like drop-offs in your, where your hook shank's going like that. Yes. Yeah. So I actually design all the products for Loon, Jordan. That's like my real job, not just being a fly tying lackey. Yeah. So what I'm doing is, this is a Copic marker, and you can see, you can just take it and take your white parapost and turn it pink. So if you needed a little extra visibility out on the water, you can do that. The other kind of tricky thing is, say if you got to the water and if you had a few markers, just standard colors here, and you tied this tan caddis, right? No, I'm sorry for the interruption. But I can take this, because now I saw them eating this olive caddis. I totally misjudged my caddis hatch. They don't eat, tan caddis till summertime. Right now they're eating this olive caddis. So you can take it and just color the body of your flies, especially if they're lighter, and match the hatch. It's a pretty good little hack to carry a few pens with you to manipulate, if you will. If you tie some tan hoppers and they're eating fluorescent orange ones, guess what? You can manipulate that to become fluorescent orange hopper. So we're going to take our light Cahill dubbing here. Black, you know, it's funny. I either fish white or black if I'm using like an indicator, and everybody's like, black? How are you going to see that? Well, it stands out super. It looks like a dead spot. You have to have good vision though. So, yeah, I agree. No white on foam lines. That's trouble. So again, our microfine dub in light Cahill. So I'm going to peel back just a little segment of this, and we're gonna work this forward. But I'm just going to take a second here to tie in. That was bad fly tying guy. I dropped. Oh well, let's use a new one. Drop the rest of that. That's buyouts. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to catch this guy, and then I like to just wrap him up. And then back down. I'm not the fastest at dries. I won't lie to you and tell you I'm like the speediest dry fly tires. And then we're going to take just our little extra. I'm just going to make the final little head on this pattern here. And I don't mind a little bit thicker on the thorax here, but nothing too over dramatic. So now I'll go ahead and I separate this, and just go ahead and start wrapping downwards. I don't mind it. And this is just your basic parachute fly here. You can get it stacked in there super tight, and then what you're going to do is you're going to bring your bobbin up, and a lot of times I'll use oops, went backwards on that, my apologies. I'll use like a Zappa Gap or something, and just put that on my thread, because it makes your life so freaking easy. Or Loctite has been my new cup of tea lately. And I'll just throw a few, half hitches in there. We'll just trim our post up. So you can see you get just a nice little parachute post off of that. And I don't mind getting this up in there. The head cement. It's not going to hurt it. If anything, it's just going to keep it waterproof. No white on a foam line. I use clear on foam lines. Just kidding. So yeah, just a fun little variation. But like I said, if you get in a pinch and you've only used white or a lighter color, the Sharpie marker can save your life, because you can kind of come back in here and change your colors. It's not going to take too much to the orange. The orange is probably a more powerful color, but you can just do that. These are just these are Copic markers that I have. Thanks, Carl. I like these just because I can airbrush with them, and I just order them all the time. So, oh boy. Alright. So yeah, you know, say if you, like, so great example too, like just kind of the same thing. So say that we get there, they're eating some big olivey looking mayfly, maybe it's Caddis, whatever, and this guy's a little light, and they're not touching it. I mean, you can change your whole pattern in like less than 10 seconds. So now we just tied, instead of a light Cahill, you know, it's not going to match perfect, but, you know, say they're eating like a small drake or something like that, or a you know, something else that didn't, you know, stay in the river that long and get huge. There you go. Yeah, I mean, you know, any permanent marker you guys have, it's going to work, you know. Some of the fancier ones, like the Copic markers, they're going to have more colorways to choose from that will match insects better. But just a little hack. So now we're going to get tiny. Where's the tiny hooks? I obviously do not care for myself. I have a rule, if it's a 16 or smaller, I buy them. But so this is a size 18, and let's see here. Where did that guy go? Whoops. So this is just a little black gnat pattern here. So we'll take our A-dot thread. This is black A-dot thread, if you guys can tell that it's really black. Put that out of the way. It's cramping the style. Cramping the style. Let's see. Alrighty. Brilliant. Oh, there we go. Gotta go my magic box back here. Would appear. That's rather interesting. Alright. Well, that's not good. I dropped the black. Oh, there it is. Cool. So we're going to use some black dry fly dubbing. You wouldn't imagine that tying 5 flies, your desk would look like a train wreck. But it does. Very quickly. And I'm just going to go ahead and fluff this up. Remember, I was talking about that stuff being compressed into that bag for quite a while. And we're just going to create a really small, slender body here. And this is barely bigger than the hook. You know, the width of the hook there. I'm not going for a huge big body. This is a very dainty little bug. Cool thing with the dry fly dub, it does rip pretty easily. It's a very soft material. So when I get these little extra guys, I can just trim them back. So I'm going to take just a pinch. See, I had my parapost wing out and I blew it. So the midge will have a very fine wing. So this comes in kind of like a strand. And what I'm doing is I'm pulling out half of those fibers. I'm going to go ahead and even up the back ends of it. And I want it to be just barely longer than the body. So midge, if you guys are looking out there and you're newer to fly fishing and you're like, what the heck's a midge? Imagine a mosquito with a fuzzy face. It's like the mosquito's cool cousin that doesn't bite you. is how I like to do it. And it looks like he has like a... Oh, holy moly. Matt Ebers is right. The parachute helps it sit lower in the water, which I think I like a lot. I like parachutes quite a bit. I'll even trim the bottoms of my dries quite often. So, what we have here is just a wee little feather off the hen saddle there. If you have really small dry fly cape, like an ultra mini one, you could use that as well. And I just like to get it so it's nice and level in there. And I'm going to use my hackle pliers. Again, shiny side forward. This doesn't have to be the biggest dude in the world. Smaller for a midge. I mean, unless they're big midges, it's typically better. So we'll just get about 3.5. Whoop. Never had that let go. Scoundrel. It's a very fine feather, so I'll go ahead and rewrap that. Okay, and once we get up front here, we'll capture the tip of our feather and do a few securing wraps. At this point, I feel pretty comfortable with cutting that guy off. We'll go ahead and do our whip finish here. Just a few turns, nothing too wild. I'll go ahead and refresh the screen in case there's any questions, but that's why we pay Ebers extra and overtime. So just a few light touches, keep it out of the hook eye, and that's going to be just a little basic midge pattern. Jim, which material? Oh, Parapost material? Okay. Gotcha. Evers, you're going to get extra treats this week. Thanks, buddy. You know, I waited till the end. Waited till the end. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm going to give you guys the secret word. All right, what do we got here? Secret word this week is right there. It's Kehoe. Because everything that we used tonight used Kehoe saddle hackle. So that's going to be our secret word. Kehoe. And this is your guys' last entry to get in on the last big giveaway. Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to zoom out and up and back. So yeah, Kehoe is is our secret word. For those of you guys who are, have tuned in for this, intro class, wanting to learn to tie flies, I've got a lot of different cool feedback. Nothing bad other than, nothing. Other than I'm a goober, and but those are probably from Cheech, so it doesn't matter. He's not here to defend himself. So next week, we're going to be back with another live stream. They are going to go back to the twice a month format, which is the first and third Thursday of every month. Next week, if everything goes as planned, I'm going to have one of the most innovative fly tires on the live stream. We're going to be at their location, probably in the world. He said it was good a week ago. I haven't confirmed with him, so if you don't see his name on there, it's just going to be me. Sorry. Otherwise, Mike Mercer is going to come on and tie some of his new nymphs, explain his theories, his, why he does stuff the way he does. He's a good buddy of mine, amazing tire, incredibly humble, and just an all-around killer dude. Scott, thank you. Jeremy, thanks. And so what I was thinking is we did this 101. It's laid down some groundwork. The videos are going to be up on YouTube. But I'm thinking of changing our format just a little bit to every week that we have a live stream, have a more, an easier fly, and maybe do 3 flies even, but kind of continue on with education, changing patterns, how to make stuff look cool and, be different. So hopefully you guys will keep tuning in for that. Back to big articulated meat hunters. B. Philly, thank you much. Russell, thank you. I wish I could do it 52 times a year. It's it's a few extra hours in the work week, but thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. But 2 weeks is a lot of doing it 26 times a year is quite a bit of strain. But we'll be back on that format anyways. Well, Eugene, we're going to keep tying all winter, man. We never stop tying. John, thank you much. So you guys, if you guys go to the website, you log in, you put Cahill in there, enter the raffle. The Loon will send you reminders that there's going to be a live stream coming up. You can also watch our Instagram, Regal's Instagram, Hairline's Instagram. But first and third Thursday of every month, there's going to be live fly tying. Typically it's me, like I said. Sometimes I have special guests that you guys get to heckle, so they never want to come back again. A lot of the stuff is, sometimes it's pretty wild, sometimes it's really, just tying just a different little trout bug. Nothing major. But like everybody said, yeah, getting back to articulated meat flies. The great thing is that when you watch somebody else tie something, even if you're not tying that exact pattern, you can really learn a lot from some of the tricks and tips and handwork that people do. So there may be something that you see that you're like, hey, I could do this to this other fly and it would be way cool. It's kind of like adding green ice dub into a pheasant tail that we tied instead of using peacock curl. Now it looks kind of like a caddis green rockworm, stuff like that. So John B says Mercer is amazing. He is. Thank you, Jordan. I appreciate it. Scott, Mike Mercer is the next workshop. I have a feeling he's going to tie. If I know Mike, I think we talked about it because I talk to him quite a few times a week here locally, and I think he's going to be tying a dry fly, the Missing Link, which is one of the best dry flies I've ever fished, and I think he's also going to be tying his Twisto Caddis. So should be pretty fun. Hopefully you guys will tune in. Be sure to look in your emails for a reminder. Remember to sign up on the Loon thing to win the giveaway. Kehoe, magic word. And I appreciate everybody's time and hanging out. And have a great night. Take care. We'll see you next time.